Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Neil McPherson. I got Robert Dixon on the line. You want to say hey, Robert, real quick?
Hey, everybody.
Awesome. Welcome to today's group coaching. This is our end of the year group coaching. We normally do this only for our, monthly paying customers or annual students. However, for this year, we wanted to kind of do a Christmas, kind of giveaway end of the year thing. Really just help everybody out and give you some good advice and take questions and help you any way we can to just help set yourself up for success in 2021. Okay, so if you can hear me loud and clear, I see we got some people kind of rolling in a little bit late. It is a Friday afternoon, so I get it. If you want to say hey, say what's up, let us know if you can hear me loud and clear. What's up, Mike? What's up, Jack? Michael, Jack, how you guys doing? Let us know where you're joining us from. It's I was telling Robert earlier, this is like day 10 of like 30-degree weather. It's snowing still out here in Denver, so finally about to get some sunshine for the next week or so. I'm looking forward to it. It's weird in the winter with COVID, it's there ain't much to do basically. A lot of time at home hanging out, so it's kind of a trip. But all right, loud and clear. What's up, Eric? How you doing? Florida, nice, 55. Austin, Texas, right on. Cool. All right, guys. So first off, I just want to say this training is for you. There's no affiliate here. There's no special guest. There's no offer at the end or anything like that. We just wanted to do this to help out everybody, who's been a great subscriber of ours over the last few years. And so if you have any questions, if there's anything that you in particular are struggling with, whatever area of your business it might be, whether it's getting clients or lead generation or doing SEO or reputation management or, any of these types of things, feel free to let us know at the top if you want right now. Anything you'd like us to discuss or get into a little bit, we'd be happy to do that. And then if you have any questions along the way, feel free. We're going to kind of keep this loose and open. So as long as there's, the questions are relevant to what we're talking about, we'll take them in. And then at the end, we'll hang out and take as much as we can. And we are recording, and we'll get this out later as well. Okay. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, here's a good way to start. How about this? Everybody who's on here, everybody who's paying attention, what's the number one thing that you struggled with this year and you'd like to improve next year? How about that? Can you answer that for me, folks? All right, well, wait, I'll give it a second because I know it's kind of an interesting question. I'm gonna grab a quick drink of water before we get started. But if there's anything that you really struggled with this year or you think would help you a lot next year, you'd like us to talk about, feel free to pop that in there. If focus, all right, that's a good one. We're gonna talk about that today, RD. I don't know what RD stands for, but getting past gatekeepers, all right, that's a good one. Signing up clients and closing deals, we're going to talk about that today, Michael. Cool. All right, so these are some of the things that we sort of assumed. Robert and I, we do coaching calls every so often, and we talk with you guys a lot. Tech issues, you can let us know which specific things you're interested in hearing about, Eric, and we'll try to address that. So awesome. All right, well, I see we got quite a few people going in. Those are some good ideas. Thanks for sharing those with us so far. And let's just go ahead and get into it, all right, a little bit. I see we got people still showing up late, but it's okay. No big deal. Okay. So as I mentioned in my emails, we got a few different topics that we're going to cover today. Robert, I'm going to kind of move my question box, so if you see anything relevant and you want to let me know, just go for it.
Sure.
Cool. All right, so what we're going to talk about, a few different things, right? Narrowing your focus, systems and processes that you can use, that you can start to implement in your business that will help you grow at a better rate, essentially. The number one service to offer, and we'll kind of talk more about the number one thing along the way. And then, like I said, live Q&A at the end, all right? So let's go ahead and start with narrowing your focus, all right? And for this particular slide, I decided to use one sentence and one slide to talk about this topic, right? And the whole idea here is, I've been doing internet marketing since a little bit before 2012. 2012 was when I first started to get some success. I started in about 2010, late 2010, so a little over 10 years, right? Close to 10 years. And the number one thing that I noticed for myself for other marketers, when I talk to people that are struggling or not getting the results that they want, it is a lack of focus, right? Focus, I sell this service, and what about my website? And now I'm following this guy's method, and I just bought this new software, and I'm trying this, right? They call it shiny object syndrome, right? How many people struggle with this type of thing, right? Trying to do too many things. Give me a 1 or a yes in the chat box if this resonates with you. Trying to do too much stuff and not getting the results that you're looking for at all, right? Exactly. I got ones and yeses, Clive, Eric, Jack, Michael, familiar, right? So this is the best piece of advice I could really give anybody who is trying to be successful with internet marketing, right? Pick one thing, work your ass off at it, and stick with it, right? Because it works, right? If you want to sell web design, that works. If you want to sell SEO, that works. If you want to sell reputation management, that works. If you want to sell lead generation as a package, that works, right? But where I see the problem with most people is they want to do this and they want to do that and they want to do this, and then you got your wife and your kids and the family, and maybe you have a job still and all this stuff, and you're all over the place, right? If you were to take, let's say, for 6 months to start this next year, you said, you know what? So help me out, guys. Let's make this interactive. If you were to pick your one thing, your one best offer, the thing that you think can really crush it, whether it's reputation management, SEO, web design, what is it for you, right? Let's hear some answers. For us, we're going to talk about it. You guys probably know, but we love web design, right? But what is that one thing? All right, lead gen, that's good. And lead gen can encompass a few different services, and we're going to talk about that actually a little bit later, but ultimately your goal is to get those recurring clients, right, Jack, if you're doing lead gen. So you might be doing some SEO and you might be doing some of this and you might be doing some of that, but the goal is to get clients and get them customers, right? So focus on that, okay? List marketing, that's good too, Mike or RD. I don't know what your full name is, RD. I'll just go with RD for now. Web design and focus. Yeah, surprising, right? The #1 slide here I had for you was focus, right? Focus on one thing and see it through, right? See it through. You're going to get those first few clients. Maybe that doesn't work out. Maybe you lose a little money and things don't go perfectly, whatever. Keep doing it, right? I've been doing this for a long time. I have a lot of great contacts in this industry. One that I like to use as an example is one of my best friends. His name is Justin Sardi. We used to run a YouTube ad agency together, and we kind of split. And I'm guilty of this, right? I went a little, let me try this, let me try that, and I could do this and I could do that, and it's kind of it can be a double-edged sword being good at a lot of things, right? And with Justin, he just went YouTube ads, YouTube ads, YouTube ads, nothing else. And I was kind of surprised that he was able to be so successful with that. But in looking at what he was, able to do with that, by focusing on that one thing, he grew his market, he grew his market, he grew his content, and then people started reaching out to him saying, hey, I want this from you, And so it's the same kind of thing. The more you become known for, hey, this is, what Neil and Robert are pretty well known for, right? Is what? Web design, website demos, reputation management, not a lot of things, right? We have kind of a narrow focus because that's what makes us our money and what we're good at. Web design isn't the most sexy thing. Not everybody's all about it. We like that because it makes good money, right? And it gets clients in the door, okay? So whatever that one thing is that you need to fix, I won't harp on this too long, but focus on one thing, right? Whether, set a goal and just make that your singular focus and don't worry about everything else. You get another email, even if it's an email from me, even if it's another training from Robert and I, don't buy it, If you're trying to stay focused, right? And I wouldn't say that if I didn't really mean it, right? Because obviously if you buy our products, we make money. But we want you to be successful more first and foremost, So if you're buying everything under the sun and that's not working for you, stop doing that. If you're trying to do all this different stuff and that's not working for you, stop doing that. Sit down, take some time over the holidays and think about a great question. Tim Ferriss, you guys know Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week guy. He was like, if I had 2 hours a week to work, and I had to do the most important thing that would keep me successful, what would it be? That's a great question to ask yourself. For me, I know what those things are, but think about that, right? If you only had a few hours a week to work, where would you put your time? You probably wouldn't be wasting it on all this other stuff. You probably put it right to that one thing that you knew would get you the most money, right? Whether it was getting more clients or, just whatever the case is, like building your list for RD or, you know, we're not all, I know we mostly do local marketing here, but we all are internet marketers, right? So if you want to build that list, if you want to grow that blog, if you want to, whatever it is, pick that one thing and put all your focus into that, you're way more likely to get results, okay? Makes sense, makes sense. Any other questions about that? I can get off this, that particular soapbox if you guys got that part. But I just wanted to make sure that before we get into nuts and bolts a little bit, mindset, you know, if you're not where you want to be, more often than not, it has nothing to do with the service you're offering. It has to do with your lack of action, your lack of effort, your lack of consistency, your lack of focus, you know, or distractions in your life, you know, things like that, that, you know, they're not talked about so much in internet marketing, but they're a huge part of being a successful entrepreneur, right? Secondly, all right, Robert, can you give my next slide for me?
Sure.
And this guy kind of goes hand in hand, right? Once you figure out the one thing that you want to do, or that you think you know you should be doing, and you want to put that effort into it, take massive imperfect action, right? This is some of the best advice I ever got personally. Mario Brown, I don't know if you guys know Mario Brown, but he was the one who taught me this, right? You know, the way I like to explain it to anybody who's asking me questions, you know, I get a lot of, like the other day, one of my good friends called me about a business he wants to start. My mom wants me to help her with her business that she wants to start. You know, I've been getting this stuff for years. I'm sure Robert does too. And the number one thing I always tell people is just take action. Like, just start, you know, get out there and do it. And, you know, you're gonna fail. You know, I was reading a quote, I forget who said it the other day, but, you know, jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down, right? If you're not doing what you want to do, just get out there and take action. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to screw shit up. People aren't going to like you. Things may not go well. You're going to make some money. You'll learn in the process. But most importantly, you'll make some money and you'll be able to kind of start getting some traction, okay? So how many people here, just be honest with me, you have this thing you want to do, but you really haven't taken the amount of action that's necessary for it to be successful? Give me a 1 if you know that that's true, right? Thank you for your honesty, Jack. I appreciate it. Exactly, right? So pick the thing that you really want to crush it with, and, you know, excuse my language, but get out there and fucking do it, right? You know, that's just the best way I can say it. It's the best, you know, I remember when I was first getting started, I had no clients. I was, you know, living with family. I was out of a bad relationship. I was trying to get my business off the ground. And I did this interview. I was doing like a Warrior Forum product. It was like an interview series. I sold a little bit. And I was interviewing this guy. His name was Jameson Brandon. And he had a lot of success, you know, with clients and things. And I was telling him about my situation. And he goes, man, you just need to get off your ass and get out there and sell some shit to somebody and see what that does for you. And I was like, damn, he's right. You know, so I just, hopefully that's my little kick in the pants. Sorry for my language if it bothers anybody, but the bottom line is decide what you want to do and do it. You know, that's the key. Okay. All right. So any questions about that? Robert, do you have anything you want to add? If not, we can start getting into the processes and systems and a little bit more nuts and bolts if you're ready for that.
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, you know, when I think back to when I was first getting started and you know, I think that, you know, focusing on one thing or just deciding like, you know, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to take action even if it isn't exactly what I kind of envisioned for it, was what really caused everything to start working. You know, that's what caused me to start being successful. And Neil will tell you now, you know, I don't like focusing on one thing. I always have ideas. I'm like, oh, what if we did this? And let's, you know, this, you know, I saw this thing the other day and I was like, oh, that would be a cool business. And of course, it's completely unrelated to internet marketing and digital marketing. And you know, and that's how my mind works. But that's how a lot of people's mind works. And that's why, you know, we really need to kind of have this mindset where we realize that we need to focus on specific things and make things work before even thinking about moving on to something else.
Yeah, you know, like a great example in our business, Robert and I do software and training together, right? You know, we've created several different tools. We have, you know, a few different training courses, and it gets a little complex and confusing, and sometimes we don't quite do what we're hoping to do, you know? And so one of our goals for this next year is to really centralize everything. We're actually, you guys don't know this, but we're moving everything into like a singular membership, and we're going to focus our efforts on putting people into that membership so we can work with that group of people and kind of have a nice system versus, you know, a product about this and a product about that, and so forth. So that's just an example of kind of how we're doing that in our partnership, in our business, right? But yeah, everybody's got that ADD, Eric, and you got to avoid that. Oh, this opportunity sounds great, and that opportunity sounds great. Just pick the one that fits best for you and stick with it. You know, that's my best advice. You know? So, all right, Robert, if you want to get into systems and stuff. Are you there?
Sorry, I was on mute. So yeah, when I'm mapping out this upcoming year, every December, I like to kind of think, you know, what changes can I make? What shifts can I make? And of course, this whole year with the pandemic and so many changes in the business landscape, I've been doing more introspection than usual. And one thing that I've built up a lot over the last 9 months and really should have done a lot more before that even, is systems and processes. You know, I have a good team in place. I have a good head on my shoulders, so I've always been able to do well without systems. But I always knew that I could do so much better if I had them, and I had systems for some things. But the more I'm realizing that the more systematized everything is, the more processes you have, the easier it is to run your business, the easier it is to get the kind of results that you're looking for. It's yeah, I'll just get into it and we can talk about it, because it's one of those things where, again, it sounds kind of boring, but man, does it make a big difference. So creating a system, and this can be, you know, a checklist, just a process, a way you do things, a way of organizing information. One thing that we implemented this past year was just, and this sounds so simple, it's just an SEO intake form. Every time we have a new client, it's a big spreadsheet, and either I'll do it or I'll have one of my team members do it, where they'll just go through and we'll, you know, what's the description of this business that's under 200 words? What's the description of this business that's 300 to 400 words? What is the link to their Google Maps URL? What is, you know, just all these things that we could use while we're doing SEO. When we write a press release and try to get that out there, you know, what are the top 5 keywords we're looking to rank for? What are things that they're doing in the business? All this information, having it on a spreadsheet, just saves so much time for me, just not having to kind of go back and find that information every single time I wanted to do something. And so just things like that can make a huge difference in how easy it is to get results. So for every major process, we've been creating checklists, kind of information storage places for things that our team members are going to be working on. You know, we can create a video that says, here's how this works. And then if we need to bring on a new team member for any reason, or shift duties, or if somebody's sick and we need someone else to kind of step up, there's a video that shows them step by step, or a checklist or whatever, exactly how to do everything. And then every time we run this, every time we implement this checklist or process, we think of ways that it can be improved upon. And if our team's doing it, we ask them, you know, what do you think, what ways do you think this could be better? And if I'm doing it, you know, I try to identify that myself, and I'm always tweaking things and adding things. I just added a couple new fields to the SEO intake form just the other day. So again, I know I've been talking about my team a lot, but even if you work alone, having these standardized documents can really cut down significantly on duplicate work. It can really make it much easier to make everything flow correctly.
I just wanted to really real quick, Michael was like, man, I'm really very, very system oriented. I've been known to spend 6 hours to build and refine a system process for a 20-minute task. I need to stop being so perfectionist. And I just kind of wrote him back and said, you know, same way, overthinking things can be a bit of a downfall, like just get it done, but imperfect action. So I just want to make sure that, you know, keep that in mind, like build a system for yourself, but don't overthink it, I guess, right? This is what I'm trying to add.
Yeah.
Don't spend too much time on it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, don't overdo it, I guess. And where that line is, you know, I mean, spending 6 hours to refine a 20-minute task could be a very good use of time if it's something that you do quite often, or if you know, it's going to make things easier and work better for your clients and for yourself over time, to be sure. So similar to that is templates and documents. This is also something that we've done a better job of over the last 9 months. And creating, there's an invoice template, and there's a different
checklist,
proposal templates, and just anything that needs to be created. Again, it's something that I can say to one of my team members, hey, go create an invoice for this client, and they can just go and clone that template and create it. But it's also something that makes it easier for me. I would just put that off because I'm like, man, I don't really feel like going and creating that invoice for them. And now, I know it's going to be a 2-minute thing now because it's set up that way. Again, this might not be perfect at first. Our proposal template has been through dozens and dozens of revisions over the years, but every time you create a new version, you have the opportunity to improve it for all future clients. So just think about it that way. So you have this, and for this particular client, maybe you talked about something specific that they want, and you kind of put a paragraph in about how you can kind of meet that vision. And you realize that what you said there sounds really good. And if you tweak it a little bit, it could be something that could be used for almost any client and sound really good. And so you keep it in there, and that now becomes part of your new template. So there you go. Any questions about templates or documents? Or I keep everything in Google Drive or Google Docs and Google Sheets or whatever, just because it's nice and easy. Anybody can access it from anywhere in the world. I can have permissions. I like web-based stuff. I don't like, that was another reason that I always despised creating invoices, I think, was because the thing we used was in Microsoft Word. And I would be like, okay, I'm going to open this invoice, and it's going to take like 4 minutes for Word to load, because for some reason Microsoft products always take forever to load on my PC. And and then I'm going to have to save it, and then I have to put it in the Dropbox so other people can access it. And it's just, with the Google Drive, it's just simple. Anybody can access it. It's easy to share permissions, and it's just easy, at least for the way my mind works. And then this is also something you can do for monitoring and reporting. For any recurring client, we have a monthly and weekly checklist. So we say, okay, have we done this week for these guys? And then every Friday, I try to set aside time to review what we did that week and make sure we didn't miss anything. And if we did, put that on the next week as a high priority to make sure we get everything in place the way it needs to be. For clients that we're running SEO for, our team has a list of things that they need to do each month. Certain services we need to buy, or press release type thing we need to put out. And so all of that is listed out. And for every client, it may be different. We have sort of a standard checklist. And then if we have a client that is paying us a lot, and we're trying to get larger and faster results for them, then we may adjust that accordingly to adjust that accordingly. So if we're running paid ads, we check in once per week to review and tweak the campaigns, make sure the click-through rates are high, make sure that we're running the highest converting ads and that everything is working, and Google hasn't done some weird thing. The one client a couple weeks ago, the ad, I guess their site went down for like a half hour, and I guess that was when Google checked their site, and they're like, oh, your site doesn't work anymore, we're taking down your ads. And so we just needed to say, oh, the site is working now, and they were back up and running. But we wouldn't want them to be down for several weeks or even 2 days without realizing that they had done that. So we have this, just go check in. It takes 5 minutes, just make sure everything's good, and it makes sure that we're taking care of our clients the way they need to. And then for hosting and maintenance clients, our team, they back up the website, they review the plugins, the WordPress updates, make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to do. And we have a checklist for that. When we launch a website, we have a checklist. Make sure that if it says anything about being a demo in the title of the site, and make sure to remove that. Make sure the robots.txt file is being crawled. Make sure we're telling Google that they can crawl it rather than trying to block them from crawling it like we may want to with a demo. Make sure that the forms are all pointing to the client's email address and not to some test email address we set up, et cetera. Things like that. Just things that are obvious. It's not like they're things that we wouldn't know. It's just things that we might forget, and it's easy to forget. And when you have different multiple people working on launching a website or performing a project at the same time, things can get mixed up, and those checklists help that not happen. If you really want to get into checklists, I actually read a book recently called The Checklist Manifesto, and that was really interesting. It didn't have a lot of practical advice, I guess, but it was still very interesting and really made the case for checklists. It mostly talked about checklists as they relate to aviation and surgery, like medical, medical procedures. So, but it had a lot of information about how just a simple checklist, even of completely obvious things that everyone would know, can save lives, and the massive changes in the patients that survived and successful operations and successful flights and things like that that happened once they implemented a very basic checklist. So
yeah, just got a couple comments and just a little note for myself. So like for us, we've been, like I said, Robert and I have been working together on our software, online stuff for a few years now, and it got a little disorganized, I guess is the best way to say it. And so we started doing the same thing for that business, making checklists and simple stuff like common responses for our support desk and things like that. And I noticed as soon as I started doing it, I started using those checklists like right away. Literally, like there was one I made a few nights ago. I made it up, and half hour later I used it, and the answer, whatever it was that would have took me 10, 15 minutes to figure out, was 30 seconds. So mainly, especially if it's anything you're going to do more than once in your business, it's worth writing it down, essentially. Eric was asking real quick, Robert, what plugin do you use for website backups?
it's called like all-in-one something, all-in-one backup maybe, or all-in-one WordPress copy, something like that. I'll look it up and let you
I was
know.
gonna say that didn't help. You're fine.
Let's see. I'm looking it up now. Let's see.
But
All-in-one WP migration. That's what it is.
migration. Okay. Cool. And then Michael just said, yeah, make sure you don't block your WP setup is not blocking the search engines. Just in general, especially if you're selling websites, especially if you're running people's websites, it's important to make sure that you're keeping things up to date and you're, whether it's you, I know Robert talks a lot when he says, my team this, my team does that. And I realize that not everybody has a team, but if you're just, one man show, you still need to keep up on this stuff. So you're a one woman show. The more you can document what you're doing as you go, the better off it's going to serve you later on down the line is the most important thing we're trying to say, One example I can give is having your client's website get hacked is an awful experience. So make sure your security stuff is up to date. If you've ever had a client call you and be like, what is going on with my, this happened to me once. Client called me and they were like, what's going on with my website? And I was like, I don't know. And I went and looked at it, and there was just like a message from the hacker that had taken over the site that said, we stole this site, basically. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. And I spent my whole day dealing with getting it straightened out. But, keep up with your security, your updates, all that stuff with your clients' websites, where it can cause you trouble down the road that you're not expecting, basically.
Absolutely.
What about site security, Robert? What's your favorite for that? Robert does most of WordPress stuff. I don't do it as much anymore as I used to.
For sure. Yeah, what is it called? I'm gonna look that up too.
Is it WordFence?
WordFence, that's it. That's the thing we use for most stuff. Yes, WordFence. Yeah, I'm always surprised, or at least I was when we first started using it, at how often bots or whoever just try to log in. They guess passwords. You can see it says the guy used this username and this password to try and log in, and it's you know, it's just common usernames, admin being the biggest one. Once I saw that, I've never used the username admin anymore since that, because that's always the most obvious one. But they also, you know, the name of the site, the I don't know, there's a couple, you know, if they can see the name of a person on the site, they'll try like their first initial and last name or whatever as the username, and then just common passwords. And so WordFence, you can set up all sorts of stuff, but I think we have it on most sites where if somebody tries to log in from the same IP address 3 times in a row or 3 times within 10 minutes or whatever, unsuccessfully, it blocks their IP address. And you know, there's all sorts of different options, but basically you can block people that are trying um, to either hack into the site or just cause problems with you know, server bandwidth and all that kind of stuff.
A lot of times what I've noticed in the past is they're not just trying to hijack your site, they're trying to hijack a ton of sites and use that bandwidth for something else, you know, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's bots. It's all bots. It's not people typing things in manually. But it's, you know, and those bots are very sophisticated and can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. And plugins like WordFence limit the amount that can be done. You know, they say, I've heard it said anyway, that um, there's no, technically there's no way to stop a hacker if they have enough time, basically. Um, you know, any site, almost any site can be hacked by someone who knows what they're doing if given enough time. But what we can do is, and the reason that most of our sites are not hacked very often is simply because by putting a few very standard measures in place, we can make it much, much harder to hack into our site than it would be worth, or much, much harder to hack into our site than it is to hack into other sites where people aren't doing that. And so by doing those things, it makes it much, much, much less likely that we'll get hacked in the first place.
Nice. I have one comment, but I'll read Clive's question real quick. He said, besides WordFence, is there anything else that we should do to protect our sites in addition to keeping plugins up to date? Definitely keep your plugins up to date. That's one of the ways that they hack into things for sure. Out of date plugins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But do you have any other things you guys do that you want to recommend?
What's that? Any other plugins?
Besides WordFence or anything else that you might do?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else that we use that we always use. That's the big one. That's the one that we put basically on every site. Anything else that we do is usually just you know, need-based, based on if the client needs something specific, some kind of specific protection from users from a certain country or things like that. But yeah, WordFence does pretty much everything we need it to do. There's also a service we use to protect from spam, like spam comments. And again, I don't remember. I'm really bad with remembering names
You're
of
fine. I
things.
think that one comes when you install WordPress, like it already comes with it.
Well, there is one of those, but that doesn't always work as well. And it's not spam comments, it's like spam form submissions.
Yeah. I get those in my email, Ask
Right,
him it. There you
right.
go.
That's the one that comes with WordPress, is the Ask Commit.
But what do you use that's different than that?
Yeah, we use something that prevents spam form submissions. And I'll see, I forget the name of that right now, but I'll see if I can.
Yeah,
I
just
can
if you
see.
can remember by the end of the call or put it in the chat box.
Yeah, here, let me ask my project manager.
Yeah, while you're doing that, so I'll just give you a quick, for anybody that ends up experiencing this, right? Recapture, that might be it, Robert. But what was I going to say? So, for me, like you guys can tell, I'm not Robert is way more of the technical side of the house, right? Like when we develop software, he's the one who's working with the developers and getting it coded, and I'm more of the tester and the idea, the user kind of person, right? So I've never been ultimately like super technical. I always think it's funny when people are like, can you fix my computer? Like, no, I can't fix your computer. I'm sorry, But a good tip that I've used in the past that worked well for me is if your site or one of your client sites get hacked, call your hosting company because they can help you fix it. So like, for example, I had a client that exact story of that guy, the hacker put his message on the front of the site. Yeah, I called HostGator, who I was using at the time, and I just said, hey, this happened. I don't know what to do. and they were able to figure it out for me. They were like, oh, well, he went in here and edited the HT access file, and we fixed that, and that's what was able to get it back online. So if you're not a technical guru and you do get hacked, call your hosting company. They can help you straighten it out, because they don't want anything negative on their server either, so that's just a tip.
For sure. And I see a question, do you need the paid option for WordFence? And in general, no, we do not use the paid option. We use the free version, and it meets our needs for pretty much every client.
Cool. I've never read the book Rocket Fuel, but Michael said in the book Rocket Fuel, Robert is the implementer and Neil is the visionary. So,
Cool.
yeah, we have a good working relationship. Both of us can do most of everything that needs to be done, but we do have some yin and yang going on there that works well. So, all right, you want to get into the next part?
Sure. So let's talk about the number one service to offer. And it's no surprise, probably if you guys follow us at all, web design is our favorite service. Now we love monthly marketing, anything that brings in recurring revenue, but quite honestly, web design helps to bring in recurring revenue because it's such a perfect lead into everything else. And it's easier to pitch, it's easier to sell, and it makes a lot of good money. So that's why we love web design. So again, it's extremely profitable. It's very easy to get $1,000 minimum for a site. We've sold websites for 5K, 10K even. The $10,000 site is pretty high end. A lot going on there. It's not something you can just throw up with WordPress in a few days. But again, the $1,000 sites are often sites you can throw up with WordPress in a few days with somebody who knows halfway what they're doing with WordPress. So don't discount websites or how easy they are to find quality people to help you get websites set up and to sell.
Yeah, real fast, can I just jump in? And I'll let you keep going. But, I know a lot of people the reason we always bring up web design is because we feel like so many people just overlook it. Everybody's looking for the hot new thing, the sexy new service, web design is so evergreen, it's so in demand, and right now it's in demand, more than ever, right? You literally can't operate in 2021 without a good website. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time, just a quick story, and then I'll let Robert continue. But I was at this event in San Diego maybe about 6 years ago, and it was Frank Kern was speaking there. It was hosted by Mario Brown. It was like it was all about online marketing, And at the time, me and my friend Justin were just there to kind of learn how this online marketing thing worked, and we had some success. We created some products, we had a list and all that. And I was sitting down outside. I was just, smoking a cigarette. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but I was sitting outside smoking a cigarette, and I was talking to this guy, and he was like, I just came to this event because I heard about it. I'm from San Diego, and so I was just in the area, and I'm just trying to learn how to make money online. That's it. Like, I don't care what I do, He asked me point blank, like, what's your best advice? And I looked at him and I said, I would sell websites if I was you. And he was like, what? I'm at this online marketing event. There's all these guys crushing it, like, I want to follow. And I'm like, no, I would sell websites. And he was like, why? And I'm like, because everybody needs them. They're in demand and they're great money and they're almost pure profit, So anyway, just to go to show that this isn't just Robert and I saying, hey, website, we really believe in this wholeheartedly, because we've seen it. So go
Absolutely.
ahead.
For sure. Yeah, and the learning curve is short. If you wanted to even do most of it yourself, it doesn't really take that much. It's not like the same learning curve to be able to, be a plumber or whatever, where you really need to have this massive depth of knowledge. You can do most of it and hire somebody for the rest if you want to, with a very, very short learning curve. And if you're looking to hire people, then the learning curve becomes even shorter. All you need to learn to do is kind of effectively manage people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the more you can lower your cost also,
Right.
Like, how much are we paying now to get a website built roughly?
Not a lot, it varies, but yeah, $100.
$100, and we're selling them for 1,000 plus, right?
Yeah. And
Exactly.
it's easy to find talented people to help us. There's people in Upwork. There's you can hire people easily that can do a lot of good things for a very low cost. So, and yeah, so you can hire people to kind of fill in the blanks where you don't know, or you can hire somebody to just do the job from start to finish. And that's a whole other course as to how to find talented people in the best way. But when you go on Upwork, there's going to be a lot of people there. Some of them are going to be really great. Some of them aren't going to be great. It's not always easy to tell the difference. That's why we hire several people and give them a project to work with actively. It doesn't cost us a lot of money, but it lets us know very quickly who is going to be a good fit for working with and who isn't. Somebody said something about WP template.
Real fast.
What's that?
Sorry, a couple comments and questions real quick.
Oh, sure.
So Rob was asking how many pages on average is a $1,000 website? Like I would say 5 roughly. That's like your basic website, about us, services, contacts.
Yeah, basic 5-page website. Although, with WordPress, people always, when I come across businesses that charge for websites by the page, I'm always surprised because, a 10-page website is just marginally more difficult to create than a 5-page website. When people charge by the page, a lot of times it's like twice as expensive. And yeah, you just type the content. If the client's providing content, you just paste the content in and create the page, and you're done. Unless they want a fully custom style and design for every single page, pages doesn't really matter. So I generally don't let pages affect my quote unless it's just a ridiculous number of pages.
It's more
but a typical
features, right?
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So a typical $1,000 website, though, like a 5 to 7-page website is probably standard.
Cool. Rob,
will 5 be enough for SEO?
Oh, go ahead. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Will 5 be enough for SEO? Probably not. It depends on what the client, depends on what their industry is, depends on what you're doing with the SEO. You can rank well with a 5-page website. Our SEO strategies that we use, we like a lot of long tail keywords. We like a lot of content. We use our SiteRanker Pro plugin, if you've heard of that. I mean, that can create hundreds of pages, and it works very well to laser focus on certain keywords.
Yeah, so that's where I was going to go with it as well. So we might create a 5-page website for that client, but if we're doing their SEO, we'll use SiteRanker Pro, and we may create hundreds of pages that are just not visible in the navigation. Does that make sense, Rob? Are you familiar with SiteRanker Pro? Okay, cool.
Yeah. I see Eric said, what's a typical per page rate for anything over 7 pages? Again, that's not how we bill. We don't really bill by the page or even take pages into account in the quote unless they're asking for some, just very unusual number of pages, I guess. And if we end up doing SEO for them, then we'll use SiteRanker Pro and create a ton of content. But for a standard website, it's just like, well, what do you need? How many pages do you need, and what do you want to be on those pages? If we had a client that says, well, I offer 20 services and I want a page for each of those services, here's the content. We probably wouldn't charge much more than if they had 5 services, just because, again, the amount of extra work is going to be minimal to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say it depends on the goals of the client too. If not every client is looking to rank on us on Google. They may not even want to pay you for that. They might not even care about that. Like a great example is my mother. This is funny, but I'm building her life coaching. She's starting a new life coaching business website for Christmas. That's my Christmas present to her, because I was like, Mom, it's not free. But anyway, for example, she doesn't need to rank that, right? She just needs something she can show to potential clients that she's talking to. So there's a difference. It depends on the goals of the client. A couple questions. Are you seeing them, Robert? Do you want to address those?
Sure. Rolf, the speeding up sites, just asking about, how to speed up sites. Cloudflare has a $5 a month plugin that speeds the site up. I am not familiar with that, so I can't. It seems strange. I don't know. I think my best answer there is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. my server manager takes care of a lot of that, and so I'm not as familiar with ways to speed up websites. What I do know is that there's a lot of great ways to speed up a website that don't involve paying a monthly fee for a plugin. So I guess I'll just say that as far as your question about the $5 a month Cloudflare plugin. As to what they are, maybe we should I'll talk to my team and maybe we can do a video on it sometime. But there are plugins. It's things that minify the stuff, minify the images. I think there's like caching plugins where it doesn't go through all the scripting processes each time, and that speeds things up. There's a number of ways to do it. I wouldn't pay for a plugin to do it unless you've heard a lot of people that you trust say that it just was better than anything else, because there are plenty of ways that don't cost any money to speed up a website.
Nice.
So I see a question: do you use Groove Pages? And I don't. I'm not familiar with Groove Pages, I don't think.
No, we don't either. Are you talking about for like page building? We use, page building is kind of, for years I used Profit Builder, but it's kind of gotten out of date and not as supported as well. So what I've been using this year that I like a lot is Convertri. That's what I've been building landing pages and sales pages and all that kind of stuff with. Convertri, it's here, I'll put it in the chat. What I like about it is it integrates with your WordPress site. So if you want to make a landing page, for example, but you want it to show up on .com/whatever, you can do that. And the other one is Lead Pages. We've been using that for years. They have some limitations that I don't love personally, but anyway, if you guys are wondering about page building, there you go. So Rob was saying I've been quoting 5 to 7 pages at $750, which is not terrible. We would say 1,000, but that's us. Client supplies the content when they're ready, and I build them when the site is built. I just did this for 2 sites. That's awesome, Rob. Good job, man. Couple things on that. We usually wouldn't start below 1,000 if it was us. We'd also look for half up front, half on delivery. But the bottom line is, if you're getting clients in the door and you're making money and you're building a relationship, then good for you, man. So, all right, Robert, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So so in addition to web design just being awesome, it's perfect right now, simply because in our current climate, so much more business is being done online than ever before. Zoom is something that some people had kind of heard of a year ago, and now people can't live without it. My kids do school and some of their school on Zoom. Meetings for the various organizations that I'm involved in happen on Zoom. It's just a different world. But beyond that, any kind of business interaction is so much more of it now takes place online than before. So scheduling appointments and submitting information, ordering things and buying things, paying for things, and almost every business, especially local type businesses, need help putting this into place. Some businesses were able to pivot quickly back in March or April, but many of them just either made temporary fixes or did nothing at all. We had a restaurant client. We approached them. We did their website. We just do maintenance and hosting for their website, and they don't do online ordering. They never had. We approached them in April or March, asked them if they would be interested in having us set up something, and they thought things were going to be back to normal pretty quick, so they weren't too worried about it. It wasn't one of their busiest times of the year to begin with, and so they just kind of did nothing. And then they sort of half opened up, and they've been limping along, and now they just got back in touch with us about 2 weeks ago and said, okay, so now we're probably ready. What do we need to do? So I'm waiting to hear from them I gave them a quote and an offer, and I'm waiting to hear from them. But now they're realizing, like, yeah, we have to do this. We can't just kind of make do. We need to adjust to the new normal, as it were, or at least the new temporary normal, long-term temporary. And so there are still plenty of businesses, I would say the majority by far, who need at least some kind of help, if not complete help, adjusting to this new way of doing business. In addition to that, new complete industries practically, or at least expansions of former industries with lots of new companies are popping up overnight, and they need websites. We did a website recently for a company. It's a brand new company. They used to, it kind of spun off of an old company that used to clean the inside of like a large ship, like shipping vessels. They used to clean them when they were in port. That was their model. And of course now with a few very small tweaks, they've created this whole new company that disinfects offices and schools and daycares and they asked us to build the website, and they wanted to mention and have a blurb and an image for like all 19 different categories of places that they thought they could serve, and it didn't make for a great looking front page. But anyway, this is a company that a year ago would have had very little business, and now they're looking to expand massively, simply because everybody needs this. It goes in and it just removes the virus because of some mist or there's some kind of thing, some proven. There's all these studies that they had us put on the site. But anyway, and they are not alone. There's lots of different businesses, new businesses, changing businesses that are popping up to react to the virus, not just specific about the virus, but just the new way the world works. I mean, Zoom is a great example of that. And we can help those companies.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments on that. For one, you didn't tell me about that, so that's interesting. But that company. Michael made a comment that said, we'll never see normal again. And that's, I guess, up in the air as far as what. But, that's kind of one of the things we wanted to touch on during this call is, it's been like 9 months of this now, like we're all pretty aware, we understand how it's working. We've been able to sustain our businesses, even though that 1 out of 6 have gone out of business this year. And so going into 2021, you just kind of have to plan for, it might not change a whole lot, and maybe later in the year, but for the next 6 months, we're likely to see a very similar situation, and that's just my personal opinion. And it depends on where you live too, right? Like I have friends in Germany that are on like super strict lockdown. I have family in California that's just going nuts. But here in Colorado, it's pretty much been the same for the last 6 months. So it also depends on where you live. But yeah, you just need to take into consideration the difficulties these businesses are facing and look to help them. That's one of the things that I've always liked about Robert is he's not a sales guy, right? He'll admit that openly. But where he's excelled in helping local businesses is just that, focusing on helping them instead of making a profit, because you're going to make a profit if you help them out, so the more you can kind of put yourself in their shoes, understand their situation, and look for ways to help them out, the better it's going to go for you, essentially.
For sure. So
anyway,
and another, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Another thing that we get asked a lot is, well, since I can't go anywhere, how do I find clients? And here are some we've been using most of these, maybe even all of these, to some degree or another over the last several months, and they've all been effective. One is Thumbtack and Bark. If you have our course, Local Lead Drop 3.0, which we launched back in the summer, our strategies for that. You can't just log on there and bid on some stuff and expect to get clients. But if you use a strategy and do it right and only bid on projects that have a high chance of becoming clients, it can be a very effective way to get in touch with businesses that need your help and help them. So we've gotten lots of clients. I'm actually working on a project today it was a restaurant. They have several locations in the DC area. I met them back in May. We did a whole new big website so they could move their ordering of these very complex specials they have online. And that was a pretty large project. Yeah, it was a restaurant client. It was multiple $1,000s and for all the locations. And So they're making some more changes coming into the new year, and so they just got in touch with me the other day, and now we're doing additional work for them. So it can be a great way to get your foot in the door, to meet people, to get business. Cold email is another one. I mean, that's how I started my original business back 12, 13 years ago, was with cold email. And it's a numbers game, to be sure, but if you do it right, it can be very effective. I've been formulating a cold email campaign for January that mixes with this last tip, create a resource for local businesses, where I'm going to reach out to local businesses that I have some connection to, whether we're the members of the same chamber or in the same town. We it's easy to create, we both know the same people. Oh, I see that we both know this guy because we're both friends with them on LinkedIn or whatever. It's easy to create some sort of minor connection that just breaks down that barrier just a little bit. And in the email, I think I'm still working it out a little, but I think it's going to say something like, hey, we're in the same town. This is what I do and who I am, and I have this resource. I can create you a demo for your website, or I'm still working out the resources too. But or I would love to create a report that kind of goes over how your web presence is doing, and just discuss ways that you can improve that. Are you interested? And some people will be interested, and there'll be leads that I can cultivate. Some people will not be interested in that, but we can start to build a relationship that could bear fruit, that will almost certainly bear fruit in a broad sense down the line. And it's just an easy way to make those connections.
Can I add a couple
And
things?
then virtual networking. Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. So two things I was thinking about while you're talking. One, I think you hit on a great point. With local marketing and dealing with local businesses, it's not always an overnight thing, As a great example, let's go back to that client you were just talking about. I remember this client because you were not bitching, but like, man, this client's a pain in the ass a little bit, right? But that's a Bark lead that you got how many months ago?
7 months ago.
7 months ago, and you sold them a website for, I think it was like 3,000 or 4,000, right? Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And then 7 months later, they come back and want more business, right? So that's kind of the point I wanted to make is, local marketing. I feel like it's a game of building up your, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, ammunition, I guess it might be. I don't know. That's not quite what I'm saying, but it builds on itself. You get referrals. One day you might wake up, you get a call from somebody you didn't expect because they talked to somebody else that you did a good job for. You might talk to a client today that's not interested, but 6 months from now, they are. You know what I mean? So it's a relationship thing, and it's a building. You got to work those leads, and you got to continue to work at it. I guess, am I saying that right, Robert? Is there a better way to explain what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, just every new client, every new relationship you build becomes a referral source, and it just grows exponentially. And so, I used to know that if I went to a networking event and met 10 people and got business cards from 10 people and followed up mentioning the demo that we could do for them, I knew that that would result in business over the next year or two. And it could take that long. It could be right away, but it could take that long. But if I met 10 people, it was going to turn into business, and then that business could turn into more, and it just grows exponentially. And so it's important that all these seeds, you plant all these seeds, I guess you could say, and getting a new client is also a seed that can turn into to more business.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. And I guess what I was trying to, get across, right, is, in the internet marketing space, we live in a me now, a want it now, a need it now kind of world. And there's so many things out there that kind of hype it up like, oh, you can make money with this right away, and the reality is that the client business, it can take a little while to build upon itself, but it's very fruitful as you go. So if you're not seeing the results you want in month 1 or month 2, don't give up on it, I guess is the best way I'm trying to say it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when we do stuff, we try to structure it so we'll try to see results hopefully soon, some results soon. and while also planting the seeds. That's what we do with SEO too, or with marketing for clients. We try to do things that are going to generate business quick for them while also planting the seeds for long-term growth.
And just another, like, so I'll get to my other point, but just kind of to go on top of that, it's funny. My mom, the reason she called me the other night, she's never been in business her whole life. I thought it was funny, but she was like, I'm having these problems with PayPal and this person's trying to pay me, and I kind of need the money, but I don't want to stress them out. And I said, Mom, the number one thing you want to make sure you do is no matter how much you need the money, don't express that to your clients. Be patient, wait it out, find another solution, like whatever it is. But just because you're like, oh man, I'm gonna make $1,000, don't let that pressure seep into your process, I guess you could say. Try to keep your personal financial situation separate. If it's gonna take a month or 2 or 3 to get this guy to actually, or this girl, this company to really work out, be willing to have that patience, I guess, is the number one thing I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Secondly, and try to see it on a year, like I like the way Robert said it, I know that this will turn into business for me at least at some point this year, is a good way to look at it. And then secondly, the stuff about the demos and the email. So I'm guessing that that's stemming from our conversation about ramping up lead advance next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lead advance is something that we're also using. Do you want to talk a little bit about like your plans for that next year and all that?
Yeah, I mean, we're just I'm trying to, like with everything we talked about earlier with systems and processes, just trying to get more systematic about using Lead Advance and about having our team use Lead Advance, and just reaching out to more people in a more systematic way, in a more just in a way that's better mapped out, and so that's that's part of what my planning is for next year, is just figuring out the perfect process for that, or several hopefully perfect processes, and then testing them all, and kind of ramping up what works best.
Nice. The other thing I was going to say about like cold outreach is like, I think now more than ever, people are a little bit more open to it, right? Like you can't go down to somebody's business, and you could, but you're very unlikely to go down and meet the owner at their company, or at their office or whatever the case is. So with everything being done so virtually right now, I think people are a little more open to, oh, I haven't met you in person, but we can have a phone call, we do business, that kind of thing, right?
Right. Absolutely. And and if the approach is more just the, hey, I want to connect and help you with this resource, it's a much different reaction that you're going to get from that than if you're saying, hey, I'm this guy and I want to sell you something. It's sometimes it's a fine line between the two, but if you can do the former, it's going to get a much better reaction and much more engagement than the latter.
For sure. A couple comments and questions real quick. Robert was asking, what is your rough average client sign rate from BARC listings you bid on, et cetera, like out of 10 as an example? We were just talking about this the other day. It's fluctuated over the year. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have any hard data. I just know I can just go on what I perceive, but it's been a little less. The conversion rate has gone down, it seems, more recently, but it's still plenty high to be very profitable. And so I'm not worried about that at all. I think, as things fluctuate, and it's also because we're so strategic, out of the thousands of leads that come through, I mean, literally thousands of leads come through every month just for web design. We're bidding on a tiny handful of them. And so it could just be that this month we bid on a slightly worse handful than in the previous month or whatever. And that can affect the percentages too. But
Yeah, like over Cyber, you want to tell, like over Cyber Monday, we bought a bunch of credits because they were having a good deal. And we bid on a lot of jobs and had way less success, than we had earlier in the year, when not as many people were doing it maybe, or whatever. And also like we weren't keeping up with it as well. Like it depends on like the reason Robert's kind of having a hard time giving you a rough number is because it depends on your effort, kind of, you know. Like Robert admittedly was telling me how he bid on a bunch of jobs, but he didn't really follow through that great, and you know, that kind of thing. So it depends on your activity level, what you're bidding on, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's if you call them, you will have a higher conversion rate, that's for sure. And that's something that, I bid on it and like, oh, I'm going to call that guy later, and then I get busy and then I just don't. And then by the time I finally get around to it, they're like, oh yeah, I talked to somebody yesterday and I ended up going with them. And so if you call and you call, right after you bid or soon after you bid, um, if you're comfortable with that, again, you can get clients without calling. I have plenty of instances where we've done that, but if you call, you will get a higher conversion without a doubt.
Cool. I just noticed we had more questions that I didn't quite catch. I guess I was in the wrong part of the chat.
Sure.
So let me just go through these a little bit. Michael was just saying, I'm talking to a landscape. I think he's just kind of hitting on our point of, things take time and eventually you can make more money. I'm talking to a landscaping company that opened a plant shop, which makes sense. Is trying to do it all on the Wix site, which I hate Wix. We all hate Wix. They're locked in, but have a fear, no idea what the budget is. I'm just trying to get the whole question here. I don't think he really had a question. I think he's just trying to like reiterate essentially what he's saying is like, yes, one client can lead to more relationships.
Definitely.
Eric, yeah, Eric is just asking about LA. I guess he's had a little access trouble. Send us a support ticket, or you can Skype me, Eric. I know we have Skype. We'll get that sorted out.
Yeah, I see some things about updates. We're constantly updating Lead Advance. We have our own list of features that we want. Every time I use it, I think like, oh, it'd be cool if it did this or if it did that. And it's a process to add things, especially when it's a live software that people are actively using. But yes, we have a lot of features we're already planning on adding, and always feel free to let us know if there's anything that you would like to be included in there, and we will absolutely consider it for sure.
For sure. Eric was just asking about like uploading his own leads. Do you see that?
Yeah, if you just send us the support ticket, we'll look into that for sure.
For sure, yeah. I just told him to Skype me. I have his Skype. But investing in relationships can be a win-win in the end, but lose in the moment. Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. If you're trying to just make a buck off of somebody real quick, you're gonna be in a tough spot. If you're willing to build a relationship and let it grow and let it work out, you stand a much better chance of being successful in this business. So anyway, if you want to keep going, Robert, I think that kind of covers it all for now.
Sure. Well, I mean, that wraps up everything. I was going to say that restaurant client we were mentioning, I had almost forgotten. This is actually the third time they've approached us, and I just wanted to mention it because it ties back in with so many of the other things we were saying. Because the restaurant is mostly closed because of all the coronavirus rules, they've turned half of it into a market where they're selling, where people can come in or order ahead and buy cheeses and breads and goods and things. And so that's again one of those new businesses, new websites that come out of the pandemic. And because we invested in the relationship in the first place, finding that lead on Bark, building them a website, they hired us for that too back in August. And so I just wanted to mention that because again, exponential growth from an initial seed, and also new businesses popping up because of the pandemic. So yeah. So, and that wraps up everything that we had planned to talk about. So if you have any questions or things we've talked about or about 2021 and running a digital agency or anything like that, we have a little while longer to go on here. So feel free. See a question. with Bark, is it necessary to get the Bark membership badge? And then your sentence kind of cuts off. I don't know if you have more you were planning to write, but no, it's not necessary to pay for anything except for credits. So I'm not sure what the membership badge is. I know they have like a like Bark Plus or something like that. I think where it gives you more visibility when people are looking for stuff. I've never invested in that. I thought about it before. I don't think it would necessarily be a bad investment, especially if you're really planning to go big with Bark. I think it's $20 a month, something like that. I'm not sure, but
Here, let me interject.
sure.
So when you first sign up, they have I forget what it's called. It's like a guarantee, basically. Like you can, if you bid on your first 10 jobs and you don't get a client, they won't refund your money, but they'll give you an additional, the same amount of credits again, basically. I mean, if you think about it from their perspective as a business, they want you to land clients. That's how they're going to stay in business. You know, if you continue to get clients, you're going to continue to come back, continue to buy credits, continue to spend money with them, and that's their whole goal, right? So I forget what that is, but if you're new and you first sign up, they send you an email. It's like a welcome email, and it's like, by the way, here's your guarantee, and you can, I forget exactly how it works, but keep an eye out for that. That's all. And real fast, I see some questions coming in. We're here to take as many as we can. We'll answer them all. I was talking actually while you were, after you asked like for questions, and I realized I was muted. But something else I wanted to point out, like we're here for you guys today. If you guys got questions, we're happy to take them. Yeah, and we realize that, you know, web design is the #1 thing for us. But if it's not the #1 thing for you, that's okay. I want to point that out. And if you have any questions about just what you're doing, you know, things that can help you, or, you know, if you've been listening to this call and you're kind of starting to think about what's the one thing for you, you know, what are your plans for next year, and you just want some advice or anything like that, now's a great time for that kind of stuff. So just let us know what you're up to and what you need help with, and we'd be happy to help you out, you know. Cool. The SEO plugin is SiteRanker Pro. Here, I will put the link in the chat box.
And it can be used on multiple sites if you have the agency version.
Yeah, the one I'm gonna put in the chat box now, this is the main sales page. It'll give you the full thing, full access. And that's it. You know, the story about SiteRanker Pro, it was Robert was doing this himself, back in like 2014, even earlier.
Yeah, probably even earlier than that.
And then because he's a coder and he just likes to do that stuff, he's hilarious sometimes. Not to bust you out, Robert, but every once in a while we'll be talking and he'll be like, you know, I coded this thing because I was thinking about it. Like the other day I was talking about, God, I wish I could put a timer in the emails or something. And like an hour later, he's like, hey, I coded this timer, here it is. And I was like, oh, awesome. But he actually created SiteRanker Pro before it was called SiteRanker Pro. It was just a WordPress plugin that he made for himself, you know, and he was using this method, and I was the one that was kind of like, hey, I think other people could use this. But that is easily one of our best-selling products, and probably one of the ones that we get more people writing us in about that than anything else, actually. A lot of people have had success with it, so.
For sure, including us.
Including us, yeah. Google API, Michael was asking about. So I'm gonna put our support desk in. I know we brought up a few different things. I've seen a few different people that said, hey, you know, I can't get back to this product, or, you know, I have an issue with this. Just send us an email if you're having any issues trying to use anything, and we'll get these straightened out as soon as possible. Eric said, I got kicked out for a bit. Do you share any tips any tips with getting website clients using Thumbtack and Bark? We did talk about that a little bit, Eric. We didn't go into like heavy tips. You know, it's funny, we had a guy in our group, his name's Keith. He's one of our first local eDrop customers back in when that was our first product that Robert and I really created together, was local eDrop. And Keith was one of our first customers, and he actually got clients right away with it. He's one of the, you know, we find that not everybody takes action. That's just how it goes. But the other day he was talking to me over a private message, and then I guess he had an investor, and he bought like $1,500 worth of credits on Bark, and he was asking me what my best advice was, and my best advice was be wicked good about the follow-up, because you're competing against other people. So the more you follow up, if you're willing to give them a call, like Robert doesn't love to get on the phone as much, so he'll set like a meeting. But that's what he was trying to say, is like if you're willing to just because they give you the phone number, so if you call them right away, that will help a lot. Any other tips you want to add to that, Robert? It's all about the follow-up with Bark, I think.
Yeah, the follow up and just be strategic. If there's not often a lot of detail about what the project is in the thing that you get before you decide if you want to bid, but sometimes they'll say, well, this is my website, or this is the kind of company I am. And if you want to be as strategic as possible, wait for that. Wait for ones where you have enough information to know that, hey, this is a client that I want to that I would love to have, and it's not just some tire kicker or somebody who doesn't know what they want, or when it says like retail / e-commerce, that could mean 1,000 different things. And if that's all the information you have to go on, then it may or may not be a good lead. So if you want to be really strategic, you just wait. And it's hard to be patient when you're getting 100 of these a day and you want to get clients. But if you can be patient and strategic and only bid if their price range is high enough for you, and only bid if they give enough information that you feel like, yes, I'm sure this would be a good potential client for me, then you're going to have a lot higher conversion rate and a lot more success at a lower cost.
Absolutely. I guess that would be the other tip, is only bid on jobs that are really a great fit for you. It's funny, Robert and I were talking about NFL betting recently. I like to bet on the NFL, not very much, just a little bit of money here and there. And Robert actually had an NFL betting guide that he wrote many years ago that sold a lot of copies. But it's the same kind of thing. I wouldn't bet on a game that I wasn't pretty confident I could win, So it's the same kind of thing. Like, don't bid on a job that you don't think is pretty likely to close for you, The more you know about the job, the better the description, the more you can look at it and say, you know what, I'm the perfect fit for this. And then, so there's that part, and then follow up heavily. Those are the two kind of keys right there. But yeah, don't just bet on every game because you want to win some money. That's what I'm trying to say, basically. Hopefully that analogy made sense. I don't know.
Yeah. I liken it to Texas Hold'em sometimes. The people that do the best at that play what, like 5% of their hands, 10% of their hands
In a tournament? Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, because that's that's the best strategy, is waiting for, you're going to get better conversions and get more money if you are patient and wait for the good hands and wait for the good opportunities rather than trying to force something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we got some time here, guys. Any other questions? Is there anything you want to know about lead gen, getting clients, SEO, anything like that? We got time. If not, we'll wrap it up. No big deal. It's Friday. We're all ready to hit the weekend, I'm sure. But we got a few minutes. Thanks for coming out today, guys. I hope you guys got some good value out of this. If there's anything we missed or anything you guys want to talk about more, we got a few minutes. Otherwise, we can wrap it up, but I'll give it a few minutes, let some questions come in. Anything else you want to add, Robert? Or oh, I know one thing I was thinking about, and this goes back to my one thing that I started off the call with, right? Something else that might help you as well, instead of is focusing on one niche, or one or two, maybe three, good niches, like you've seen for Robert and I, for example, we have 3 different niche-based courses: home services, auto industry, and real estate, because we don't really stray too far from those things. Like if somebody comes in from a retail business and wants to pay us $1,500 for a website, sure, no problem, right? Yeah, Jim, we'll have a replay. Don't worry about it. We'll get it out there. But anyway, home services. If somebody was to put a gun to my head and say, hey, pick one niche, home services or contractors or whatever, that's where I would put my most attention. And the reason I like that so much is because it's one niche, but it actually is like 15 different niches, but the same system works for pretty much all of them, you know, with a little few bit tweaks, right? So pick a good niche, you know, and focus on that. Pick a good service and focus on that. I'm not saying you just have to sell one service only, right? Like you can sell web design, you can move people into SEO and then maybe some paid traffic or, you know, lead gen or whatever you do. But really just pick that one thing that you're going to focus on as your central front end, you know, pick your best front end offer and then focus on selling the hell out of that, you know. You'll get a lot more results that way in my experience. So. That's a good question. Denlin was asking about Lead Advance. So he's, you know, basically, so everybody here is pretty familiar with Lead Advance, I think. What it does is it creates, you know, you can prospect for clients that need websites, but ultimately the most important thing it does is create demo websites to help you sell the website. And he's just kind of asking, you know, what are you doing to make them look exactly like the demo? We don't use Divi, or we're starting to use Divi, aren't we? No, Elementor, right?
We
You want to talk about that, Robert?
No,
How
we
you
are.
take
We're
a
starting
demo
to
and
use
make it
Divi.
look? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, for somebody that knows WordPress or knows how to use like an ultra flexible theme like Divi or Enfold, it's, you know, you just kind of structure it like the demo. You know, you have the first section and the second section, you put the different things in there. It's not too difficult for a WordPress person to use an ultra flexible theme like Divi or Enfold to look and act very similar to the demos that Lead Advance creates. I guess is the short of it.
I guess Danilyn is a female. She let me know about that. But sorry about that. I just said my bad. But webinars are funny. I try not to screw up anybody's name, and sometimes it happens. So, Ralph had a good question. He's in the Netherlands, and he said home services is booming right now in the Netherlands with the virus, but they're so booked that they're not looking for new customers. You know, do we see a difference in the U.S.? Absolutely. You know, I don't think I could meet a contractor that didn't need more leads right now. I don't know about your experience, Robert.
Yeah, so I mean, contractors are in demand more now than usual, I think. I have a friend who's a contractor, and he was talking to me yesterday. He said that he's up 50% this year on any other year in recent memory, and it's because now that people are home a lot, they are realizing that there's all these things they want to do to make their home better. If they're going to be there all the time, they want it to be better. That being said, um, he still needs leads, and so does almost any client, depending on the service they offer. You know, businesses always need, or almost always need, more business, and that goes in a boom like this. There's more demand, and there's still plenty of contractors, and they're all looking for the next lead. So unless they have an active system of getting more business, they still need help finding, you know, kind of connecting with the people that need their services. There's a huge demand for them, but they still need to, you know, they can't just walk down the street and have people come up to them and ask them to help them with their roof or whatever. So yeah, there's still a massive market for all home services.
Absolutely. You know, Michael had a great question, and this one, I always love when people like back up what I've been saying to Robert forever. But you know, Michael was asking, is there going to be a theme eventually that will match the Lead Advance demos? And that's something that I've been bringing up for 6 months or more now. We're working on it. You know, we can only develop so many things at once. We have to make sure we support our existing customers before we try to, you know, take things further. But yes, Michael, and the short answer is yes. We're thinking about a kind of a building our own theme, basically. But we're not there yet. It's a bit of an endeavor. So it's in the pipeline. Let's just say that. Any other questions, guys? We got a few minutes here. We can wrap it up. If not, we don't have to make this replay go forever. But if there's anything you want our help with, you got our ear right now. So feel free to drop a line. If not, we can wrap it up and hopefully you guys got some good value out of this. We just wanted to really, we just want to see our folks be successful more than anything. We talk to so many people and we work with so many people, and we just know if you take action, if you get out there, you really do it, you're going to get some results. You're going to make some money. You're going to, I saw somebody who was posting the other day who was talking about if you've been doing this for a year and a half, 2 years, and you haven't made any money yet, then, something's wrong, right? Because the bottom line is online marketing is in demand more than it ever has been. I actually have a poster in my office I like to keep on my wall right here, and it shows the penetration of the internet, how many people had email back in 2012 versus how many do now. And no matter where you're at, start now and you're going to be in a good position as you go. What we do is just, I just feel like the demand is going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And there's only so many of us out there, that are willing to take action and can follow through and get things done. And the more you position yourself to be that person, you're going to make money. That's my personal opinion. But thanks, Jack. Appreciate the comments. Eric said, what factors would cause a website price to change? That's a great question. Robert, you want to talk about why you would charge 5,000 versus 1,000? Like that restaurant client is a great example, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
mean, it's mostly a function of the time that I expect it to take me, and how much time I have to put in, how much time people that I hire have to put in, and how much that's going to cost. Anything we might need to buy, any plugins or tools or whatever, and then and then just kind of come up with something that seems like it'll make a good profit, and still, even if there are overruns or things that we didn't expect or whatever, we'll still be able to deliver within that time frame, and feeling like we had a good experience and we made enough money. And to some degree, if it's a client that has a lot of money, if it's a lawyer or something like that, and I know that their budget is higher than an author who's just self-published and trying to get the word out, I'll take that into account a little bit too into the pricing. But the most thing is just the function of my time and my team's time.
Yeah, and a great tip on that is never quote anybody offhand up front. If you're talking to a client, you're talking about a website and they're like, well, how much would that cost? It depends is the answer. Don't ever say, oh, well, we can do that for $1,000 before you go back and take a look at what it's really going to take for you to do that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, let me take a look at everything and I'll get back to you, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always do. I never quote when I'm first discussing the project with a client, just because I want to make sure I'm giving the right information. And usually when I'm estimating how much time it's going to take, I double it. I take my highest estimate and I still double that, because you just never know. And you don't want to end up in a situation where you're losing money on a project that's causing you stress and taking your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael said, I've been at it for 3 years and even had a gun pulled on me for the first time in person cold calling. I'm not sure how that works, but I won't stop until it works. And that's it, Michael. If you want to be successful in this business, then be committed, see it through. I can remember we're just here, so I'll just tell you guys this. I was living with my girlfriend in San Diego. I was trying to build like relationship blog websites and do affiliate marketing, and I was making a little bit of money, but not very much. And she was mad at me every time. She would want to go out and I'd want to sit home and work on websites and all this stuff. But I remember getting that first client, and I remember sitting on the washing machine in that garage talking to my mom and be like, Mom, I think this is what I'm going to do. I think this is, and this is like 10 years ago, and I think back to, had I not stuck with it, how different my life would have been, what job I would have had, or whatever. And yeah, this stuff works, folks. People are really willing to pay you good money for these services. You just got to get out there and make it happen, and you got to be willing to fail a little bit. You got to be willing to get back up, do it again, but eventually it's well worth it. How long has it been since you had a job, Robert? When was the last
Almost
job?
13 years.
13 years, yeah, 10 years for me, there's no way that either of us could have. Robert has 6 kids, he's supporting his entire family. all from this. So it works, but it's not without its own challenges, and you just got to be willing to see it through. I guess that's my best advice, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you that story about the washing machine, but
I don't think so.
yeah,
It's a good story.
yeah. It was my first client was a band. It's an interesting story. It was this guy named, it was a band called Audible Mainframe. They were like a 6-person band, and I built their Facebook page. I helped them with their iframe. Back then they used to have iframes on Facebook pages, and they sent me a t-shirt. That was my payment for my first client. And it's kind of a crazy story. The lead singer died of cancer like 2 years later, and the whole band got disbanded. They were like on the rise. It sucked, but anyway, just knowing that you're helping somebody, you know, I don't know, that's what I like about this business too, is, you know, if you're helping a local business get more customers, you're helping them provide for their family, provide for their employees, put food on the table, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a win-win in that aspect, if you ask me, you know.
For sure.
Well, anyway, I'll get off my inspirational soapbox. But any more questions, guys? If not, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for everybody for coming out. I hope you guys enjoyed this and got some good value out of it. We'll get the replay out. We'll put it out over the weekend. And yeah, probably hear from us next week about Christmas and a few things. But nice, Mike. Michael, feel free to send us a support desk. We'd be glad to hear from you. And when you guys, if you have some struggles, if you have some success, you have access to our Facebook group. We'd love to hear about it. If you need anything, if there's anything we can do for you, just let us know, Awesome. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. You guys enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holidays, however you spend it. I hope you have a good end of the year, and I hope you kick some ass next year, most importantly, Awesome. All right, Robert, you have anything else you want to add? I think I'm going to wrap it up.
Nope, I think that's good.
Okay. All right, man. Sounds good. Well, you guys have a great weekend, good Christmas, and we'll talk to everybody soon, okay?
So long, everyone.
Bye for now.